Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back. Welcome back to Live from the Heartland for the week of September 26th. I am still Michael James up here in Chicago's very blue 49th Ward in the great state of Illinois, the wonderful city of Chicago. And my next guest is an old friend. His name is Omar Lopez. And I first got to know Omar back in the late 60s, and that's the 1960s, when he was involved with the Latin American Defense Organization. And we, Rennie Davis and I was with him, we were running a training session for organizers, and we met with the Latin American Defense Organization. After that, Omar became very much involved and became the Minister of Information with the Young Lords Party, part of the Rainbow Coalition. And we bump into each other now and then, and it's always a pleasure. And he's been very active in leading marches against the Trump administration and in the Mexican community, the Latino community around ICE. So good day to you, Omar.
Hello, Michael. How you doing? You look good.
Good. Is there anything else people should know about you that I didn't put out there?
Well, no, I think that was pretty good, except it's a Young Lords organization.
What did I call it?
You call it party.
That's true. It's an organization. I apologize. Okay. Well, one of the things that I wanted to talk to you about, I know you were kind of at the front of a recent march against Trump and immigration policies, et cetera, et cetera. You're a conscious fellow, very active in your community. What can you tell us about ICE and their activities in the Latino community and how it's affecting people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, back in, as soon as Trump was elected, a group of us got together and we said, we expect at least 4 years of a lot of organizing. And so we began to put a group together that we called it the Resistance Council in Defense of the Immigrant. In Spanish is Consejo de Resistencia en Defensa del Inmigrante. So we began organizing right at Trump wasn't even in office yet when we began to organize at late November, early December, because we knew what was coming. What happened was that the Resistance Council began to get a lot of new groups in our meetings. We met every Saturday, and we have a lot of new groups of people that were already demonstrating against the Trump agenda. We began to get labor people, the teachers union, so that at the end, what we decided is that we were going to organize around the May 1st March. And that was, so the Consejo was the lead organizer of this particular march. We were able to put together, it's a coalition that was over 200 organizations. And I think the salient ones, was the Chicago Federation of Labor, was part of it. The Chicago Teachers Union was part of it. So labor was pretty well represented, as well as community-based organizations were part of it. It was a very broad coalition, so that we also dealt with the issue of Palestine and other issues that were brought up to the assembly in the meetings. So again, we knew what was going to happen. The first thing that we began to organize was a whole campaign on Know Your Rights. And we started that in December. And we were really happy that a big group of not-for-profits began to do the same thing. So, the Know Your Rights campaign was really very successful. And of course, it's already, everybody talks about the fact that the head of ICE, Homan, publicly had to say, Chicago is a very well educated city, and they were having problems, detaining people. So that was the first campaign, and so then May 1st came around, and we began to then talk about what were some of the follow-ups to the march of May 1st, which was a very successful march. Um, and then came the announcement, that what happened in LA and Trump's threats that he was just going to be invading Chicago also with National Guard and others. So we began to organize around that. And again, we sort of like redouble our efforts in terms of educating the community as to how to respond if they encounter ICE. And remember, they've been changing. First they started to go into to houses. We instructed them never to open the door, never to accept a warrant that it was not signed by a judge, things like that. And that was pretty successful. Then they moved on to picking up people on the street, and then they moved on to going to places like Home Depot and other spots where immigrant workers would gather. So they've been morphing also in their approach, because I think at least in Chicago they haven't been that successful. Again, it's because the community has been very well informed and organized. The last numbers that came out of the ICE was that they had detained 400 undocumented workers in Chicago. So compared to the type of the number of agents that they brought into Illinois, that's not a big figure for them. So what it means is that they're not being as successful as they thought they were going to be in terms of the numbers. So they're using a lot of resources. You see that they come to pick up one person and they got 5-6 agents. That's a lot of agents. That's a lot of hours. So we want to think that we have been successful in terms of educating the community. They're going to continue, and so we're going to have to also keep developing tactics, to confront ICE, and interrupt their operation. I think that's what's going to happen. Like when I talk to the groups of people, I say, we got to become like mosquitoes. You go out there in the backyard and you start getting attacked by mosquitoes, and that's how we have to be. We have to become mosquitoes for them, so that they're never comfortable in their operation. The people that have been demonstrating, for example, at Broadview, they're also becoming pretty creative. Once they got gassed the last time, then they started in the meetings. They started talking about bringing those leaf blowers that you can carry with you, so that then when they throw those little gas bombs at you, you just turn on the leaf blower and just throw it right back at them. So I think that the thing is becoming very creative also in terms of how to respond to them. Mike, it reminds me of the 60s. It reminds me of the 60s because, when we were active in the 60s, we also had to come up with different ways of confronting the police. And I think that this is happening again. I see a lot of young people out there, which is really very satisfying to see. So, that's sort of like what's going on right now.
Well, you talk about young people getting involved. I mean, I got to say that some of the marches I was at, I think I was at 2 of them, there was a lot of old progressive types there, but there have been I think a lot more interest shown by young people. And I do think that this era is going to produce a whole lot of organizers. I mean, they can talk about whatever they want. They can talk about this guy who got killed, and they're trying to make him into a right-wing saint. I think that we have on our side, so to speak, and hopefully we can bring more people with us, but we're going to have a lot of people who are politically conscious and taking a stand. I like that thing. I didn't know the thing about the leaf blowers, but I had this out in Broadview, and it's at 1930 Beach Street in Broadview, Illinois, which is where ICE has a headquarters. They've been becoming very brutal. I know there's a candidate named for 9th Congressional District named Kat Abugzale. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Abughazaleh. I got to learn that, and I apologize. But they were brutal in throwing her to the ground and a few other people, grabbing people around the neck. I mean, just out of control. And we're really pleased that Gavin Newsom in California passed a rule about no masks by police agents. And I would hope that would happen here, too. I mean, our governor has been really outspoken. What do you know about how people respond when someone is arrested? I know that they picked up a U.S. citizen recently and held him for a couple hours and held on to his dad. And then they attempted an arrest out in the suburbs, and it turned deadly. That's one of 3 people they've killed so far, only one I know of in Illinois. What's your sense of that stuff going on with ICE?
Yeah, like you said, they're becoming more brutal, in their operations. I think that to something like that, again, we have to develop tactics as to how to defend ourselves, because I think that we have that right, to defend ourselves. When you're exercising your constitutional rights and somebody is going to interfere with that, and I think you have the right to defend yourself. So I think that tactics have to be developed, to fight that kind of attitude coming from the ICE agents. I know that I read in Upper New York what happened in one of those raids. The people came out. A lot of people came out to protest, and while they were doing that, somebody slashed the tires on the vehicles that they had, and so they had to retreat. And they retreated, with flat tires, and they had to park outside of the area until a tow truck came to get the vehicle. And that's the kind of thing that I'm thinking, when I talk about being a mosquito, that's the kind of things that need to happen. Of course, you can't promote them because then you get accused of all kinds of things, especially now. But those are the things that need to happen. Some of the people that I've spoken to in the streets, some of the street people, they were saying, hell, if they break your window, why don't you break their window? When they're trying to get somebody out of the car. So that's the kind of responses that people are beginning to talk about. So I think the resistance is going to intensify if they continue with that kind of attitude, So I think that the resistance from part of the community is also going to increase, and again, because the young people are getting more and more aware of this. When I talk to young people, I say, look, I know when you're on the street, you don't let another group come into your neighborhood, right? And so now they're coming in, they're taking your mother, your uncle, your relatives, and you're not doing much. So I think that people are beginning to think about it, and they're becoming more active. So I expect that if they continue with that, the resistance is going to take a different shape. And of course, I think that, again, going back to the 60s, I think that we are going to, the Latino community, we're going to have to rely a lot more on the white radicals and liberals to do a lot of the work, because they're not going to be deported. Where are you going to deport you? I don't know. Back to where?
Let me ask you, when is there a way that when ice is spotted, how do people know about what's going on, and how does a call go out to? I know there was a bunch of activity out in Logan Square this past weekend, I believe, where a number of people kind of descended on an event that was happening out there, and I'm just wondering how the network is working so that if ICE is active in a certain place and some people spot it, and how do other people learn about that?
They have what they call the rapid response teams, and they started, kind of loose, but now they're becoming organized sort of like geographically. So now you have the Little Village rapid response. You have the Logan Square rapid response teams. You have the back of the yards rapid response team. So, and they have very good communication. That's one thing that we didn't have then, Michael. But now, they communicate immediately and people come out. So when they spot ICE in the neighborhood, they let the rapid response members who are, available at the time, and they come out. So that's the kind of communication that is going on right now. And I think it's one of the good things that is coming out of this whole experience, being organized neighborhood by neighborhood, which is something that we really need to reinforce. I think geographically we need to be organized so that they can respond quickly.
I'm wondering if you think that they will send the National Guard in. I know Trump backed off on that. Pritzker, our governor, has been really outspoken. He's been on the national news. And the mayor, Johnson, has been really good. Our senators have been good. We've had we had a little lead up time as compared to LA. That happened pretty quickly. But we seem to have put up a strong resistance impression. And then Trump backed off, but then he lately has talked about Chicago again. Depends on what side of the bed he's getting up on. Your sense about whether the Guard will be used or not?
Again, I think that, the kind of resistance that has been, Chicago has been known for, I think that's what has stopped Trump from moving forward on that. Remember that the only city that Trump could not hold a rally when he was running for president was Chicago.
Right. We took him out. I remember that.
Right. So he remembers that, and so he would love to do something, but he can't because he knows that the city is going to respond. So I don't think that the National Guard is going to come to Chicago. I think that he may try other things, and especially because the response has been pretty strong. It's been pretty strong and well organized. So they're pretty sensitive about things like that. I don't expect that. I expect probably ICE to continue for a while, but again, it's not being cost effective, because of the way that they're doing things. But I think we have to be ready though. This is going to continue. Again, we have close to a little over 3 years for organizing. And like you said, I think that out of this, we're going to get a lot of good young organizers out of this experience.
Well, we have a group up here, Protect Rogers Park, and there are a lot of groups around the city. And we are a conscious city, we can look sleepy sometimes, but we can be awakened and we can be, something to contend with. And I'm really proud of our citizens, most of them, taking a real heavy stand against ICE. It's clearly an attack on freedom of speech these days. It's an attack on, think about it. We have these people jumping out of cars all buffed up with their equipment on and their masks on and attacking people. And I don't know how that will play out down the line, but if there's any decency left in the American population, we will see it at the ballot box, I think, in, 2026. It's coming up. Any parting words that you'd like in our last minute or so to tell people out there about what they might think about and what they might do?
Well, I think people out there are developing their own tactics. You know, they're really very good. I think that what we need to do is put a little pressure on the Democratic Party. You know, not to be so wishy-washy. I think that if we take the House back, they have to fight the same way that the Trump people are fighting. You know, get rid of people. You know, you have to put your own people in there. You know, because those are the ones that are going to be defending your views. So I think that I hope, you know, that will happen, that the Democratic Party backs, you know, all of the actions that are going on in around the United States.
Well, it'll be a stretch to get some Democrats, but I know a lot of them are moving in a good direction. And Omar, it's always a pleasure to see you. I imagine I'll see you at the Church of the Holy Covenant on the 11th. There's going to be a dedication to the People's Law Office and to the Church of the Holy Covenant, where Rising Up Angry had their health center and many people had great meetings. You've always been a wonderful, active dude. I'm really proud to know you, and I thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, brother. We'll see you soon.